Hey everybody, thanks for watching. Don't forget to click the subscribe button and the bell icon so you get notified of each new video as they come out. Hey everybody, I'm JJ Johnson. You're watching Reality Survival, and today we are going to talk about the top 10 group rules for after SHTF. Now, this video is being done in conjunction with Che over at Prepper Logic and Eric over at the Lord Humongous channel. And they are also going to put out their top 10 rules for after SHTF as well. And so we've done this another time, and it was pretty fun, and folks enjoyed it. And so just seeing like 3 different perspectives on the same thing. And so we agree to release them at the same time. That way we don't know what each other is putting out there. And then we come together after the fact for a discussion. So we're going to do 2 of them. We're going to do this one today. And then we're going to do the next Saturday at 6 p.m. Mountain Standard Time. We'll release the next video, which it was going to talk about top 10 things to do as a community after SHTF. So this is group rules. The next one is what should we be thinking about as a community. And so hopefully you guys will go and watch their videos after you watch this one. And I'll put links to their videos in the description below as well. Whew! Okay, here we are, like an hour later. Where were we? All right, we were talking about top 10 rules, group rules for after SHTF. So the idea behind this is that this is a non-specific event that caused the SHTF. We don't really care. It doesn't really matter. We're just looking at something happened. You know, there was a big wave of violence. Everything was crazy. There was no rule of law, you know, and now what? Now we got to rebuild. That's kind of the thought process here. So I've got a few notes here. I'm just going to go over them, and let me start by saying that the list was created based on a situation where we're bugging in at the group leader's property. The group is comprised of 4 to 6 families. A council is formed from a leader of each of the families. The council is an advisory, and it has an advisory capacity and is a mechanism to share thoughts and desires of the group, and to also help perform conflict resolution among the group. The council will also be responsible for putting together work shifts, guard schedules, patrol schedules, as well as smaller group decisions aiming towards self-governance. The impactful decisions, tactical, strategic decisions, you know, those kinds of things will be done with advisement from the council, but the group leader will have the final say and authority on those decisions. And there is one exception to that. We'll talk about that a little bit further down. So that's kind of the idea. You're going to have a figurehead, an executive, and then, you know, a group of 3 or 4 people, 5 people, 6 people, however many families there are, you know, as a voice to say, this is kind of what, you know, or we'd like our input to be, or whatever the case may be. So number one rule is do unto others as you would have them do unto you. Okay? It's pretty straightforward, the golden rule. It's all about respect, and that kind of sets the tone, for me anyway, that sets the tone for how we want to deal with other people as well. Okay? You are going to be the most well-received in a community if you treat people that way. Just because it's a stressful situation, just because there's been all this, you know, breakdown of everything, doesn't mean that you can't have respect for people and that you can't treat them with dignity and all those kinds of things. So that is why that one is number 1, because it sets the tone for all the interactions and everything else that we deal with, even if there's no formal rule of law. Okay, number 2, protect innocent life. Okay, now that could be your own life. That could be someone else's life. That could be whatever, the case may be. Maybe you see somebody, harassing somebody or whatever the case may be. Part of the ethos of the group should be to protect innocent life. That's just kind of the way I see things, and that's because we're trying to create an environment that is getting rid of the wolves and protecting the sheep. Okay. Number 3, look for opportunities to build community relationships, but not at the expense of group OPSEC. So with that, what I'm talking about is that you're going to be interacting with people, okay, at some point. It's unavoidable. And when you do that, you're going to be in a position that's probably better than most people if you're a good prepper, all right? And so the idea is that where you can help people, you should try to help people. And where you can find opportunities to cooperate with other people, you want to do that. You want to spread that goodwill, and you want to try to make good relationships, because your community is going to be important. It is going to be the most important thing around you when it comes to long-term survival and rebuilding and all that kind of thing. So that is why looking for opportunities to build community relationships is number 3. Number 4, and I guess the point on that one is, let me back up just a little bit here on that, is that, it's sort of empowering the people in the group to be a little bit proactive in how they deal with people. It doesn't mean that they should necessarily, commit group resources or anything like that with it, or that they should be inviting people in to see your stuff or to see what's going on, or anything like that. That's why there is that caveat on there that says not at the expense of group OPSEC, and you could even put group OPSEC or / just at the expense of the group. But we might be able to trade labor. We might be able to do things in such a way that is beneficial to not only us but other people as well, and we want all of the members to look for those kinds of opportunities. Okay, number 4 is scavenge only if the property has been abandoned, and for example, like if the owner's just left or if they're dead or whatever. And then when possible, scavenged items should be used for charity to build trust and relationships with others. So if you are in a situation where you're just in dire need of food and you're scavenging to live, that's one thing, okay? But if you're in a situation where you're doing pretty good, then look for opportunities to help other people with that stuff that you scavenged, all right? And maybe it's you found some tools or you found something else, and hey, John over here needs a chainsaw. Well, you've already got a chainsaw, but you're out scavenging and you find that chainsaw. Go ahead and grab it, bring it back, and that way you can give it to John, and now you guys have a relationship. You've started with them, kind of a bond or whatever, where he's gonna be more appreciative and be thankful for what it is that you did for him. So with scavenging, you take what you need, but look for opportunities to gather things for other people to help build those relationships. And I think you kind of start to see a theme here on building relationships, and that's intentional. Okay. Number 5, everyone pulls their weight. That's pretty plain and simple. It doesn't really need a lot of explanation, but there's no freeloaders. Everybody works. Everybody gets their hands dirty. Everybody does their part. And what that looks like and how that is, decided is decided by the council. Okay, but everybody has to be doing their part. Okay. Number 6, always make sure to notify the council where you're going and what you're doing. In a time like this, when it's real perilous and dangerous and all that kind of stuff, it's important for the people in the group and the leaders in the group especially to understand and know where everybody is, especially in situations where you may be operating off of your property. Maybe you're making a supply run, or you're going to scavenge things, or you're going to the market, or whatever the case may be. You need to know where everybody's going, and that is so that other people don't expend needless energy looking for you when they could have, if you could have just notified Bob and he would have told the group. Okay. All right. Number 7, never leave home without a firearm, a radio, and a buddy. And never leave the property without 2 buddies, radios, long guns, pistols, body armor, plate carriers, ammo, etc. Okay, so the idea here is that in this world, we don't go out alone. We just don't do it. All right, there's not any reason to do it, and it's dangerous, and it could cause a lot of problems because you're a lot more vulnerable when you're alone, no matter who you are. So you always want to have a buddy, even if you're just going out to water the dogs or feed the dogs or do whatever, to do some chore or something like that. Take somebody with you, right? And everybody's going to be looking for an excuse to get out of a house anyway. So if you've got 4 or 5 families combined into one location, there's going to be plenty of opportunities for people wanting to get out of the house. As far as leaving the property goes, this kind of assumes that you have done what we've talked about and hardened your property a little bit. You've set up some fencing. You've done things to differentiate your property from everything else, and you've made a little bit of a safe space anyway. So when you're going to leave the property, you need to have 2 people with you, because a group of 3 is a significantly bigger fighting force than just 1 or 2. There's a lot of advantages to having multiple people. You also, like I said, you go out and in my view, in my world, where I'm thinking that security has already been established, or at least for the most part. The wave of violence has kind of dropped, and it's not just craziness now. It's kind of settled into a routine. But at this point, being the gray man, and like I've talked in other videos, being a gray man really means to appear in whatever way, shape, or form is most advantageous to you doing your mission without any interference. So in this environment, I picture 3 guys who are kitted out in armor and with their guns and those kinds of things are more likely to not be messed with. If you appear too civilian, if you appear too destitute or whatever the case may be, you could look like a victim and you could be an easy target. And so to me, in this kind of environment, what I'm imagining in my head anyway, is that you want to look more like a hard target, and you want to look like somebody who survived for a reason, because you're competent and you know what's going on and you don't want anybody messing with you. Like I said, be polite, be professional, do unto others as you would have them do unto you, but don't get in our way. So that's the thought process there in my mind anyway. Okay, number 8. You are free to leave and take all of your property whenever you please, but you will not be allowed back into the group once you leave. Any scavenged food or gear that you got will be broken up proportionally. So, let's say they found a tractor trailer full of food, and one of the families is having a hard time meshing with your group. They didn't mesh as well as they thought, and they decide they want to leave. Okay, well, take your stuff. You can take your portion of that, food and tractor trailer that you brought or whatever, and you can go. But there's no coming back. That's it. When you leave, you're out. You're on your own. And, the compassion was there initially when we allowed you to join the group. And if you decide that you don't like the rules, you don't like the leaders, you don't like whatever the case may be, and you want to leave, no hard feelings. Go your separate ways. Just don't show back up, because it's not going to be taken well. Okay. Let's see here. number 9. And I think this is an important one, and it's one that people might not like, especially, certain types of people. But anyway, number 9, mutinous behavior, theft, rumors, gossip, and backbiting type activity of any kind will not be tolerated. Any grievances that you have should be up-channeled to the council for resolution. If the resolution cannot be found, exile is the alternative. So, do the best you can to get along. And when problems come up, be forthright and open about them, and take them to the council and let the council discuss how to best go about it. You know what I mean? Maybe it's take the 2 young teenage boys that aren't getting along out back and let them fight it out. I mean, maybe that's the answer. Maybe it's not. Give them a set of boxing gloves so they don't hurt themselves too bad or whatever. Maybe, it is just, who knows what it is. It really is all situationally dependent. But if a group of adults cannot sit down together and form some kind of a resolution, then it's probably not going to be solved by you sticking around. It's probably just going to get worse. So in that case, if we can't come to a resolution, then you go. All right? Okay. Number 10, also important, and one that some people may not particularly care for. This is not a democracy. Final authority in all decisions rests with the group leader. Responsibilities may be delegated accordingly. So, for example, if, let's say, there was a doctor in the group, then the group leader might say, hey, all the medical issues, that's your area, okay? You take care of it. I'm not going to interfere, whatever the case may be. Maybe you got a special forces guy or a ranger or something along those lines, and you give him tactical oversight to work on defense of the property and to train in other people and neighbors and whatever the case may be, and that's his thing. You let him do it the way you want. You can delegate. But remember that the council is an advisory body only. The only time that in my group anyway, the council would have any significant authority would be when there are lives at stake. Okay? When there are lives at stake, a unanimous vote of the council can override the group leader, provided that the threat is not imminent. Excuse me. So essentially that means, let's say that there's a gang of bad guys that are, molesting children and young girls and stuff like that in town, and you've been able to identify where that place is. And they're fairly well armed, and it's going to be a fairly dangerous, proposition to go in there and put an end to it all. And so in a situation like that, where you're planning a proactive kind of situation that could potentially end in the loss of life, then to me, the council should be able to say, we're not doing that. It's a bad idea. Your plan is flawed, and here's why, and whatever the case may be. But they should get a veto vote, right? Because it's their family members who would be involved in that thing. And so they would be able to say, yeah, we're not going to do that. Unless if the threat is imminent, everything still goes off the group leader. This is only in situations where you're talking about proactively doing something, you're planning something out, you're cleaning up the scourge, for lack of a better word, and maybe this particular plan that you've come up with has some flaws that you didn't think of or whatever. You need to have some kind of checks and balances in there to a certain degree. And I think, when putting your family members' lives on the line and trusting in someone, you should have a little bit more of a say in it. And so that's why that one's in there. Okay. But I'll expand a little bit more. If the threat is imminent, if somebody's attacking you, then they should not have any real ability to say, no, we're not doing this or whatever. Go tell Johnny to go man that post and do whatever. It's got to function a little bit more like a military when the threat is imminent, because otherwise they're going to take advantage of the chaos that you're in, and that's going to be bad. Okay, I think we got that good. All right, number 11. I know it's top 10, but I couldn't not put this one in there because I think it's important. Any decision to take on new members must be by a unanimous vote of the council and group leader. So chances are at some point you're going to come across a situation where you will look at accepting other people into your group. And that's a big deal, right? That affects a lot. That affects the group dynamics. It affects the sleeping. It affects the amount of food that you have, and it affects a lot. So everybody needs to be on the same page that this person that you're going to bring in here, or this group of people, is the right fit for the group. So there would need to be some vetting in that. There would need to be some interviews. There would maybe need to be a few days where they camp, along your perimeter or something like that, and you work with them to see how they are and how they work and what they're like, but you shouldn't ever just accept anyone. I mean, if you guys have seen The Walking Dead or Fear the Walking Dead, accepting that little 10-year-old girl or whatever into their group is what was the downfall of that whole thing. And that is a very real possibility. So you need to be sure as much as you can before you allow someone else to come in your group. So if the decision is made, it should be unanimous across the board, in my opinion. So those are the top 11 rules. And, those rules, if they applied pretty universally to both inside the group and outside the group, and how you deal with other people and all that kind of stuff. But I think that's a good start anyway. The idea that you would only have 10 is probably not true. That's probably not very realistic, because as things come up, you're gonna have issues that you're gonna need to address on a case-by-case basis. But I think following the spirit of these 10 would put you in a pretty good direction anyway. And it's not to, even though there are some in there that are a little bit more, community minded and like for the good of all kind of attitude. This shouldn't be mistaken to mean that you're going to be soft, okay? Because number 2, protect innocent life, is a pretty hard and fast rule. If somebody is threatening your life and you're innocent, meet that with deadly, force immediately. You are to protect life, your own included. So it doesn't mean that you're not going to be, a formidable force. It just means that you have to recognize that you need to be able to exist in this space with these other people, and you have to start working on forming a relationship with them. That's so important, because people are your resource. They're the resource that will allow things to get done and things to get back to a civilized nature. And if you're not planning on, working with people, then you're failing. You're absolutely failing. And, to that end, you should be, reading up on personal relationships, interpersonal relationships, and, how to win friends and influence people, and, those kinds of things, so that you understand the psychology of the give and take of relationships and relationship building and all those kinds of things, and the stages that they go through, and what's normal, what's expected, and all that kind of stuff, because that could quite possibly be one of your most important skills, in a situation like that. Being able to be respectful and be a man of your word or a woman of your word, and all that kind of thing, in an environment where there's no police backing anything up and all that kind of stuff. That will make some people who maybe don't have the strongest morals and values and ethics and all that kind of stuff, that will make some people think that it's okay to not be above board, to be shady on deals and things along those lines, and you want to fight against that. You don't want to succumb to those temptations that come creeping into your mind, because that will be your downfall. It will be eventually. So anyway, that's what I got on it. That's what I was able to put together. This was actually quite difficult. The first like couple of days, I was just like, I don't even know what to come up with here, because it could be so many different things, and I'm really looking forward to seeing what Eric and Che come up with. And they should have released their video right about the same time this video came out. So I would encourage you guys to click the thumbs up button, share the video real quick on social media while you're here, and then go check the links in the description below and go over to their channels and see their videos as well, because I'm sure that they're going to be interesting and probably all have great merit as well. So we will come back together on, we're going to do another prepping trifecta chat on, let me see if I can find it here real quick. Yeah, here it is. Sorry. All right. Yeah, we're going to come back together on Sunday the 27th. So the next video in this series is going to be the top 10 things to do as a community for rebuilding, and that will be released on the 26th of January. And then we'll come together for the chat on the 27th, the day after, and that'll be on Sunday, and it'll be at 6 p.m. Mountain Standard Time, just like always. So we'll kind of talk about it, and if you guys have questions, try to do something to make the questions stand out. You can put them in the comments below if you want. Do something to make the questions stand out, and we'll try to address those questions during the chat if we can. Maybe just put like question for the chat, or whatever, if you'd like us to address, all three of us address it, and then we'll try to pull some of those out and do that live, so that you guys can kind of see what our thoughts are on it and stuff like that. So anyway, guys, as always, I definitely appreciate it when you click the thumbs up button, when you share it with your friends on Facebook, Twitter, and Google+, and don't forget to live the 6 Ps. Prior preparation prevents poor performance. Stay safe, guys.